Hey guys, what is up? Zuda coming to you with a morning broadcast. We're going to be covering the third, fourth bronze match here before we get the finals underway. So sit back, relax, enjoy the next couple hours as I take you through the trip of the third place match. These games will not be cast live by the players. The match is between Kynesie and Diarouga. And as we all know, Kynesie has some issues with lag when there's casters involved. And as a result, I will just be casting from the replays. You can see I have got 7 games in my replay folder named Games 1 through 7, of which I have not watched any. I wanted to be just as surprised as everyone else. H2O sent me the replays of Games 1 through 7. I don't know how long it is. He assured me that should I start at 8 o'clock or shortly after, I would be able to finish it before the 19 GMT cutoff for the finals game. So for those of you looking forward to Lord Raphael versus H2O, we'll get there. But first we're going to cover the 3-4 matchup so we know the state of the tournament bracket leading up to it. Game number 1. About to begin. You can see I've got the little banner in the bottom right. That's just to cover up the recorded game bar so that nobody except for myself can see how long the game is actually going to last. I know some people like to keep the surprise factor intact, so that's what we're going to do. And here we go. If you're ready, I am ready. I'm going to make sure that everything is looking good. Looks like we're going to be good to go. Here we go. Game number 1 between Diarouga and Kynesie. And oh my god, look at what we have on the screen. We have Spain. Diarouga spawning on the left side of the map. Playing the Spanish civilization is going to be on the left side. Interjection just mentioning to me briefly that anyone who does donate, you can see the donation link that is there, will get mentioned in between the games. Currently, I'm not going to be able to see the donations as they come up live, but rest assured that we will get your donations if they do come during this stream, and we will read them off as well. So, spawning in the left side of the map, playing the Spanish civilization, we do have Diarouga, and spawning on the right side of the map. In the color red, playing the Portuguese civilization, none other than Kynesie. The map is Hudson Bay, a watertight map, and I cannot wait to see what Kynesie's ports have in Spain, and maybe even more so. I can't wait to see what Diarouga's Spain has to offer on this map. A pretty interesting choice here by Diarouga. Certainly, perhaps there's the opportunity to play something a little bit fun, maybe add some spice to things when you're in the 3-4 match. The pressure of winning it all is somewhat gone, and so maybe that's why he chose Spain. Maybe he just chose Spain because he likes the Spanish civilization in this particular matchup. Either way, it'll be fun to see what Spain versus Port has. The last time that I watched Spain versus Port was on this map, and it was between H2O and Garja, and was one of the better games that I've ever watched and one of the better games I've ever casted. So here's to hoping that that this can rival that, and we'll see what ends up happening. Diarouga down here picking up a 160 XP treasure, using his War Dog and his Explorer to pick that up. Also sending 3 villagers as his first shipment. We can see both players have opted for that ever-popular trading post, and as a result, should have plenty of XP coming in early here in the game. Is my PC going that slow? It looks like it's going normal speed for the most part. I want to make sure that. Yes, okay. Interjection just mentioning that he can't join me for the recorded games because, as he mentioned, my PC is actually probably not able to handle it. It would be probably a little bit slow. I'm wondering whether or not it's slow right now. It looks like it's going about normal speed. But also down here, Diarouga going to be picking up another little bit of an XP treasure. Going to be having a couple of those XP treasures to start off this game. And as a result, Should have plenty of shipments available to him. We'll see what he ends up sending. He has already sent his 3 villager card. He's got economic theory in the works here as well. He's got another shipment saved up. Let's take a quick look at his deck. The name of his deck is Kynesie, C spelled S-E-A. Does have schooners in this deck. He has got a slew of cards in the second and third ages, though, that make it look like he's intending on a big water fight here. We can see he's got the Armada card, which gives warships 30% hit points. He's also got the improved warship cards, which changes all action damage by 25% and increases hit points by 25% as well. So has plenty of cards to be able to duke it out in the next stage on the water, and we'll see whether or not that actually comes to fruition. With his opponent being Kynesie, I suspect it will. And let's see whether or not he's sent... he hasn't sent schooners just yet. But if we take a look at his cards, take a look at his deck, definitely the opportunity is there for these for this water game to take place. We can see he's got himself schooners. He also has Team Coastal Defense, which improves all those buildings against warships. He's also got improved warships himself. He's also got Rendering Plant and some of the important economically focused cards as well. So everything else in his deck looks pretty standard, pretty eco-focused, and we can see he's also got some of those late great improvements, the factories and genitors as well. So we'll see what Kynesie ends up doing. Looks like he hasn't opted to send any cards so far, just deciding instead to save those cards for the second age, which leads me to believe that we're going to see some sort of fortress-based play coming out of him fairly early on in the game. Dropping down that town center nice and defensively, and as a result, I think we're going to be seeing even more indicative of that very defensive style. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if if we see some Kynesie walls starting to come up here very, very quickly. And if you're Diarouga, that's something you have to be cognizant of. That's something you have to be aware of. I think anyone at this point who plays against Kynesie basically knows what you're in for. You're in for fairly long, defensive, drawn-out games. And as a result, Kynesie is going to have to be somewhat careful with how he navigates this early game. He is aging up with the governor, which will give him that extra outpost, will allow him to perhaps control the sea up here in this portion of the map a little bit more, which I think will be helpful in perhaps dissuading Kynesie from any water shenanigans, or at least perhaps slow it down in some regards. Being able to control the water here a little bit. And yeah, in fact, there does go the outpost down right over there. Perhaps could have maybe moved it up a little bit further, but nestling it up nice and close to the sea, going to be able to perhaps slow down any sort of water play that Kynesie has in mind. And we'll see how that ends up playing out for him. Picking up another treasure up here. What have we got? 150 food going to be going into Diarauga's back pocket. And we can see his first cards sending 700 coin and 700 wood. So going to be doing an FF of his own. We can see he's picked up a second trading post and is going to be well on his way to the Fortress Age here in just a few moments, as that 700 coin is going to arrive. He's going to be able to gather it up with several villagers and get his body on up to the next stage. Let's take another peek over at Kynesie. Similarly, is also gathering up the resources required to age. Let's take a look at what cards he sent. 700 coin and 700 wood as well, meaning that he's also definitely going to be doing some of that fortress-based play that he so fondly likes. We can also see more walls coming up. In fact, putting up a huge wall here on his front door. And we'll see what kind of map control this ends up leveraging into. One thing that I've noticed consistently about Kynesie's games is when he does play, he tends to get himself into situations where he is severely lacking in map control, and as a result, sometimes can kind of get into tricky situations against really good players the longer the game goes. If you take a look at what he's kind of doing here in this map, he's kind of sectioning off this portion of the map, which is going to be good for him, going to buy him some time, but at the same time, it restricts him to basically 1/4 of the map. Now, if you take into consideration that he potentially could win all of water, there is that other half of the map that's available to him. But at the same time, perhaps sectioning himself into kind of a little bit of a hole here. We can see that full wall has completed. He does have complete control over his little corner, his little piece of the world. And it looks like he's going to be sending colonial militia here as well to try and continue that defensive style. His card order so far, 700 coins, 700 wood, and colonial militia. Is also going to be clicking up, going to be aging with the exiled prince. And very soon we'll find himself on par with his Spanish opponent, who is now currently aging. Looks like Diarouga going to continue to be playing this fairly economically. We do have to remember he has sent economic theory. He still sent his 3 villas. He actually sent 5 villagers as well in transition. He has had a ton of XP. And it looks like he's going to just be going with this big land-based push. And we can already see Stagecoach coming in. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he starts to pick up a few more of these trading posts and just tries to combat Kynesi's potential sea economy with some land-based play of his own. 5 villagers, Stagecoach TPs, definitely going to be pretty good for him. So that being said, Stagecoach has finished. Diarouga has aged up, Kynesie has aged up, and it looks like we're going to be finding ourselves in this third age. 2 falconets momentarily started for Diarouga. Looks like perhaps he wanted to finish up his musket batch before he got that completely underway. We can see the barracks has been constructed here in the middle portion of the map, still having that outpost contesting the water. Little to his knowledge, there is no docks here just yet for Kynesie. Did age up with it, looks like the caravel. And I think he's actually going to be quite pleased with the fact that there is no, there's nothing along the water. There's no fishing ships, and I think Kynesie is in a little bit of a hole economically as a result of this. We have to remember, Diarouga has Stagecoach. He has 2 TPs. He has sent things like economic theory and 5 villagers, and Kynesie behind this doesn't have a ton going for him. We can see 1,000 coin on the floor, which probably means he's looking for a semi-FI. Realistically, knowing Kynesie and how he is as a player, I think that's likely what we're going to see. We can see currently 2 organ guns coming out as his next shipment. But with that 1,000 coin, I think likely we're going to be seeing some sort of semi-FI starting to eat his sheep just now and prioritizing gathering only food at this point. So I think it's fairly safe to assume that we're likely going to see industrial-based play out of Kynesie, and we'll see whether or not he's able to get up in time before this. Oh, look at that! That was kind of a cute little fairy move there, putting the falconets in the caravel and working his way around. We can see he's going to start working away on this town center, and the muskets going to be joining here shortly. Muskets and a few skirmishers as well, going to be joining the 2 falconets that Diarouga currently has wailing away at this town center. Organ guns stepping up, trying to get in a position to be able to deal with the infantry, but the falconets, keenly aware of their presence, going to be pushing them back. Is worth noting this town center is doing decent damage to one of these falconets, down below 100 hit points. And it looks like Diarouga actually just going to back up, not going to overstay his welcome, and just get on out of there before he's able to do any real lasting damage. It does take down a section of that wall, which is meaningful in the fact that at least he's opened himself up. Still has knowledge. We can see he's being very keen with this caravel to make sure that Kynesie doesn't get on water anytime soon. And at the same time, Kynesie is on his way to the 4th age, will soon be aged up. And we know that once he gets aged up, he's going to have the opportunity to send factories, the opportunity to send heavy cannons, perhaps get some strong dragoons rolling for himself. So lots of nice little bonuses there that he can leverage once he does get aged up. I think we'll likely see the 2 heavy cannon shipment come out. But all that said, at the same time, Kynesie actually finds himself in a pretty big economic hole. Take a look at Diaraga's side of the map. He's got 3 stagecoach TPs working away for him. Likely he just can't build this one because it's a little bit close to his opponent's town center. He's got a decent standing army, and he's played fairly economically behind this. He's got his explorer in position. It looks like to drop another town center. Nope, going to be getting a veterancy upgrade. What kind of upgrade? Vet rods going to be coming out. Still, the threat of these falconets taking down the walls is somewhat there. So another thing Kynesie has to be aware of there is the age up. Diarouga working his way on forward. Going to be stepping in through this hole that he has created. Probably well aware of the fact that Kynesie could be sending something like 2 heavy cannons. Here comes both sets of Minutemen. The 2 organ guns going to be focused down by the pike and the infantry of the skirmishers and the musketeers. Minutemen coming here in the back. Another set of Minutemen coming here as well. And it looks like Diarouga caught out a little bit. Going to be forced to run back. The 2 heavy cannons here going to be arriving fairly soon. And Kynesie able to hold with these 18 Minutemen, actually doing very good damage to the infantry masses of Diarouga, pushing him back and buying himself quite a bit of time here. And would you look at that? The second that he holds that so easily with those Minutemen, re-walls up, cancels the 2 heavy cannons, and instead ships the factory wagon. So going to be continuing with this land-based play. And I do have to wonder if at some point Kynesie is going to look to get on sea, because if you take a look at his resources in his base, he's starting to run a little thin. He's got about 1,500 coin here. He's got about 1,500 coin here, and he's got that full coin mine. Great. He's relied mostly on coin crates at this point. But take a look at his hunt. There comes the dock. Take a look at his hunt. In his base, fairly thin, realistically. Getting down to just this one lowly patch of moose. And after that, he's either going to have to get out here in the middle of the map, which this hunt is essentially controlled by his opponent Diarouga in the middle portion of the map. Similarly, this hunt is well secured as well. And, well, even similarly, this hunt as well has got a town center going up on it that he realistically is probably never going to be able to contest as well. So, still kind of a dire situation. Not dire for Kynesie, but somewhat awkward in the regard that he's running out of food fast, and as a result of running out of food, he's going to have to make something happen, or he risks just never being able to get out of his base and just kind of starving out. So, and we can see currently that factory is producing food away. He's well aware of the fact that he's running low on food. Is even getting the food gathering upgrade from the factory as well, and can take some solace in the fact that he will have at least a little bit of food there for him. As it stands, I do not believe Kynesie has built a single military unit yet this game. I'm pretty sure that he's only made these Minutemen at this point in the game. But combined with the walls, combined with the town centers, and just the threat of heavy cannons, it looks like he's going to be perfectly fine. Artillery foundry coming up in the back of his base, and perhaps that will be something that he will be leveraging to get a couple culverins to deal with these falconets that Kynesie currently has rolling up into his base. If you take a look at the infantry mass continuing to grow here, getting pretty big for Diarouga. And behind this as well, look at the town centers. The economy for Diarouga is starting to take off, the land-based economy at least. He's got 3 town centers up. He's been producing his mass quite nicely here, taking quite a bit of damage actually from these Minutemen. But this is still a difficult situation for Kynesie to deal with. If you take a look at Kynesie's base, he doesn't actually really have much. In fact, he doesn't have anything. Here comes Colonial Militia being sent out of one town center, which I'm thinking he's going to hope is going to buy him enough time. We can also see the 2 heavy cannons are coming out as well, but I don't know if that's going to be enough explicitly to stop this particular timing push. This is starting to look a little bit hairy for Kynesie. That being said, 2 heavy cannons are about to pop. He's got some Cazadors in queue. His first actually trained military units are going to hit the floor here fairly soon. And what a big volley there. Calling another batch of Colonial Militia Minutemen. Going to be able to hold, and would you look at that? I would love if he canceled the Cazadors just to rub it into my face that he can last for over 15 minutes without training a single unit. Looks like he is going to have to train a unit, but at the same time, that first unit that he has trained is a Vet Cazador, and it came at 14 minutes and 50 seconds. So props to him for delaying that process as long as possible. We can still see Kynesie has been trying to get up some docks. I saw a frigate shipment coming up from Diarouga here as well, holding this portion of the map. And I still do wonder whether or not Kynesie's going to send schooners as one of his next cards. You have to look at his base, you have to look at the resources and think, well, he's starting to run out of resources and things are looking a little dire. But at the same time, being consistent, walling up again, keeping his portion of the map intact as best he can, rebuilding that town center, still does have Colonial Militia, still does have Colonial Militia Minutemen available to be sent, so plenty of defensive things going on in that regard for our red superhero. And as a result, we'll see whether or not he's able to continue to hold out. Has constructed an outpost here as well to help seal the deal over here a little bit. Also using his frigate to ferry some of his units across, but unfortunately for him, those heavy cannons getting in there, and another batch of Colonial Militia Minutemen. Oh man, the shots are real at this point. Kynesie, combined with Minutemen and these two heavy cannons. In fact, where are the Cazadors? Where are those 3 brave Cazadors? Did they die? Did he just delete them? He's like, I don't need Cazadors. Oh no, they're there. They're here in this mix. He does still have the Cazadors, but they haven't proved to be overly useful. And I don't believe he still has not sent schooners behind this. So he's building the docks perhaps preemptively in preparation for a time when he does have schooners sent. But I think refrigeration is perhaps a little bit overkill at this point. He doesn't have really that many villagers gathering food. And perhaps it would have been better if he just sent schooners at this point. We can see he's been itching to get out on water. There is the threat of the frigates out on the map for your opponent as well. Perhaps he wants to deal with that threat first. But either way, still continuing to build docks, trying to solidify his infrastructure here on the sides before he actually gets out. At the same time, take a look at that. We've got Gunner's Quadrant being researched, and we've got Culverin's in queue. Knows that he needs a better way to deal with those heavy cannons. And at the same time, he's got to be a little bit scared of the fact that his opponent is starting to get out on the water as well. Let's flip back over to Kynesie, see what he's got going. There comes the schooners. It is in queue. It's going to be sent. And it looks like that's going to be his meal ticket moving on forward here. I just realized that it was Diarouga sending refrigeration and not Kynesie, which makes perfect sense. Kynesie doesn't need refrigeration. Diarouga certainly still has this hunt in the middle portion of the map that's going to be very beneficial to him. So sending refrigeration going to be pretty good for him. And it looks like finally 17, pushing 18 minutes into the game, we are finally going to begin the water war that Kynesie so desperately wants. We can see outposts being constructed on the islands. The frigate in position to defend those and ferry those to and fro. 4 docks, and several outposts have been trained as well. So Kynesie is well equipped infrastructure-wise to begin the water war. And it looks like that's where he's going to shift his focus. We can see schooners has been sent. The fishing ships have begun to be trained. And it's just a matter of time before Kynesie starts transitioning his army onto the water and begins a situation where he's going to be trying to fish his way out of the current predicament that he's put himself in. More walls coming up. Still has those heavy cannons sitting in the back. Has he trained a single unit yet? He still has these 3 cazadores. Good. He has a batch of dragoons in queue. So at 18 minutes and 34 seconds, he's going to be making his second batch of military units. Diarouga, on the other hand, has culverins ready for those heavy cannons. And it looks like we're going to begin the water fight here. A couple frigates going at it. Looks like Kyenesie's frigate getting the better, but has to be a little bit careful that he doesn't get in range of that outpost that was built on the Governor Aja. And all the while, it is worth noting that Diarouga is applying pressure here to the front side of Kyenesie's base. But to be perfectly honest, it doesn't look like Kynesie really cares that much, to be honest. He's got his factory economy snuggled here in the back. He's starting to win the war on water, at least for the time being. His frigate was in a better situation. And well, we'll have to see whether or not things start to get a little hot and heavy here on the water. I suspect they will. Just due to the fact that we can see Kynesie is starting to invest quite heavily here in the water, and as a result, perhaps we'll see a sudden shift from both players over to the water. There is still a pretty good landmass here from Diarouga. A couple more falconets going to be joining this mix. 3 culverins, 3 falconets, a decent mass of skirmishers, and a decent mass of Rodolero here as well. Also worth noting, picking up the Huron settlement, perhaps just going to be getting a couple canoes out so that he can try and deal with the water in that way. I don't think he hasn't explicitly sent any of his upgrades on water. He hasn't sent armada or improved warships. He has gotten himself to the 4th age, which is going to allow him to get his factories rolling. Does he have heavy cannons of his own? No, he does not. But at the same time, he still does have Kynesie kind of balled up here in his base, unwilling to realistically get out. Still at this point in time, we can see Kynesie continuing just to jam himself back up in this little corner. And, well, he actually does still have quite a bit of coin and stuff available to him. But the clock is kind of ticking. I mean, it's starting to get into a situation where the army outside of his base here for Diarouga is getting scary and scary. There are 50 skirms, 30 plus rods, and a pretty good cannon army here as well. The culverins getting into position. 1 volley goes down, kills one of the falconets. 2nd volley going down on the skirms. Oh, nice volleys there from Diarouga. Looks like the culverins going to be focused down there from Kynesie. Drops 2 of them. The culverins for both sides trying to get into position to be able to deal with the other side's culverins. And it looks like, for the time being, Kynesie going to come out ahead on the cannon wars at the very least. And look at that. He's even got the Age 4 upgrade, Culverin Royale, already researched for his culverins. Combined with these heavy cannons now, going to be able to hold the fort, put up a strong showing at his front doorstep, and buys himself another moment to live. All the while behind this, things are starting to get a little bit more carried away on water. He's got, let's see how many fishing ships he's got. Oh, we have to switch to him first to be able to see how many fishing ships he's got. He's got 6, 8. Oh, I guess I can actually hold the right key. He's got 12 fishing ships so far, so combine that with he's starting to research long lines, and look out, we got Monders coming. Now, the important thing is, where has Diarouga built his factories? Okay, good planning, good Sim City here by Diarouga, putting his factories in what would seem like, maybe to the untrained eye, like a very risky spot way up front here, but truth be told, if Kynesie ever gets out of his base at this point, he's probably just going to roll you over anyways. And so the most important thing to do here is just to keep the important structures away from the water, and that's exactly what he's done. The monitors here, in fact, we can see, take a look at the structure. Aside from this plantation, which is 800 wood, most of the structure, the important structure, the buildings, the plantations, the houses, the factories, the town centers, the very important pieces that Diarouga cannot afford to lose, are sitting down in the southern portion of the map. These Minutemen looks like penned up, ready to die. Guard Skirmishers has completed for Diarouga. He's going to be able to pick off those 1 HP Minutemen, it looks like. Taking a little bit of damage from the culverins here. The heavy cannons trying to get into position. Diarouga needs to be careful. Can't afford to take too many volleys from those. Maybe getting a little greedy here, baited in by the Minutemen. Does kill all of those, but at the same time going to be starting to take quite a bit of damage here from this cannon mass. And, another heavy cannon volley going off. The culverin is going to be getting some meaningful shots off as well. And at the same time, big bad Kyenesie's out on the water. Take a look here. We've got monitors out. We've got 2 monitors out. We've got a frigate out. And things starting to look a little bit scary here on the water for Diarouga. He's trying to fight back with his canoes, but doesn't have a very large mass of them. And maybe more importantly, doesn't have the infrastructure to support his docks. If we take a look at what Kyenesie's got going for him, he's got several outposts, lots of docks, and a town center all kind of nestled up here along the edge, giving him some nice control. And realistically, not a lot going for Diarouga on the sea. He's trying to get up some more of these docks to be able to get enough canoes to be able to deal with all of this, but I don't know if it's going to matter. Kynesie staying true to his style, 2 docks on the island, throwing up another outpost. Looks like he's really going to try and control the water here. And Diarouga still struggling to push into these heavy cannons, struggling to find a way into the base. Now, behind all of this entire time, he has had 3 stagecoach TP, which is very, very good, but take a look at Kyenesie's economy. I mean, he is getting to the point where he's at 111 vil economy. He's got basically every upgrade that he needs sent at this point, and he's actually got a pretty scary army brewing. I mean, we've got Jeanette Dragoons already here. I believe he sent Genitours, so we've got those very scary 1 million range Dragoons starting to formulate for the Portuguese player. And this is the situation that Kynesie plays for. This is the situation that he thrives in, trying to get to this position where he's got the very strong Dragoons, the better late game Civ, and Diarouga, despite the fact that he has had essentially complete control over the, I guess, 80% of the land that he's had since the beginning of the game, is starting to get into kind of an awkward situation where he's losing the war on water. Kyenesie's got a bunch of canoes. He's got the infrastructure to support his water, very well established. And behind this, it almost feels like a ticking time bomb for Diarouga. Like, he's got to get in here and do something, or Kynesie might just go to age 5 or have every upgrade in the game. Diarouga, now fortunately for himself, does have 101 villager population as well. Looks like he's opted to take some of the Cree settlements and is beginning to train some of those Cree C2B, so improving his economy in that regard as well. And it looks like he's going to try and push in here on the south side. We can see he's almost maxed out on population. He's got the Culverin Royales for himself here as well. It looks like he's just going to try and deal with the Jeanettes with these Culverins and with his guard skirmishers. Culverin's heavy cannons still working their way forward for Kynesie. A very close score. I'd like to point out that the scores for this game have essentially remained within like 15 of each other for almost the entirety of the game. Neither side really having a definitive advantage, aside from the fact that maybe Kynesie has the water advantage and Diarouga has the overwhelming land advantage. Still neither side been able to fully make much of that advantage. Perhaps aside from Kynesie winning the war of attrition on the water quite well here. But that said, it looks like Diarouga is still going to be trying to get into position here where he can try and get into Kyenesie's base. The cannon wall still set up pretty strong, pushing back the infantry numbers and continuing to dissuade any sort of action here. Jeanette sneaking their way forward, trying to kill off some of the Culverins. Looks like they're going to be able to get one of them. no, they're not even going to be able to get one, and they actually take some significant damage here from the volleys of the guard skirmishers. And as a result, it looks like Diarouga just going to continue to sit back. I think he's worried about this water situation. We can see, he's continuing to shell his opponent here, trying to get some control on the water. Has sent the Armada card. We can see he's rebuilding his frigates and his monitors as we speak. But Kynesie, at the same time, really just wailing away on the water as well. He's got 9 canoes, 3 frigates, and 2 monitors currently working away for him versus the 1 monitor, the 2 frigates, and the 2 caravels that Diarouga currently has. We can see a bunch more canoes in production currently for Kynesie, and it looks like he's going to win this water fight quite hard. All of the water resources going down for Diarouga, and that's probably going to spell the end of all of these docks here for Diarouga as well. He's probably going to lose complete control of his water. We can see outposts going up, but at the meantime, still focusing his attention down here to the south side of the map, trying to get in to this south side of the base. The culverins poking away at the walls here, and it looks like the rods and the skirms going to be trying to work their way in here as well. A big raid coming in for Kynesie, able to pick up a bunch of these villagers trying to establish some of the infrastructure. It looks like Diarouga once again going to be forced off of the water, and it looks like Kynesie has finally decided he's going to get out. And this is the position where it's going to be now kind of tough all of a sudden to deal with what Kynesie has. There's not a ton of order to the buildings and stuff that have been going down here for Diarouga, and so should this push not be successful in getting into the base of Kynesie and doing some damage to whatever land economy there actually is, this is kind of problematic here over on the water. There's essentially nothing to be gained for Diarouga for continuing on the water. Minutemen, culverins, everything stepping up. Kynesie trying to get into a position with his cannons and his Reuters to get in here. Looks like we got some hussars flanking from the backside as well. And unfortunately for Diarouga, it looks like he's kind of trapped out here. Starting to run a little bit thin on his bank as well. And here come the cannons. The heavy cannon trying to get into position to deal with the skirms. If 1 volley or 2 volleys go off in the middle of those, that's going to be quite bad for him. Looks like Kynesie is going to be able to clean this up. The culverins, the cannons, everything wailing away at these skirms, which are now effectively trapped, jammed between this house and the coin mine. And unfortunately for Diarouga, going to be losing that. And well, it looks like everything kind of going down here for Diarouga. Losing the sea in its entirety. Kynesie has complete control on the sea, having dozens of canoes out. Has all of his warships here, all of his warship upgrades. And all of a sudden, Diarouga down to 124 pop and starting to run pretty thin on food. Where does he even have mills? Yeah, he has a couple of mills here, I guess. But it looks like Kynesie, Big Bad Kynesie, is out of his base. Here he comes. It only took him 30 minutes to be able to decide that, well, I think I can come out of my base. Here he comes. And it looks like Diarouga in a world of hurt here as a result. Kynesie, having a very large, sizable bank to his name, has a very scary water presence. And game number 1 finishes in Kynesie's favor at 30 minutes and 15 seconds. Kynesie with a commanding presence on the water. Something that we've come to expect from him, and not backing down once again on the water. Taking game number 1 in typical Kynesie fashion, in what proved to be a very good game number 1. Take a look at the post-game. I want to look at the score because I feel like the scores were essentially... Yeah, look at that. Look at the scores. Look how close the scores were for the basically the entirety of that game until we hit this climax here right around the 28-minute mark, and then Kynesie was able to just finally get out and Diarouga started running out of bank. but a very even game for the entire duration of this game. Look at Diaraga's economy; it's so far ahead. I will not make military units, says Kynesie. We'll read donations very quickly. I mentioned that we would do that in between games. Currently, we have $2 from William Ball from Interjection. Is the only person who's donated. 30-minute game took 37 minutes of game times. All right, so it was going a little bit slow. Was that true? Yeah, it was actually going a little bit slow. All right, so maybe we'll take a quick look at the graphics options. I'm pretty sure I have everything turned down here. To be honest, it didn't feel like it was going that slow to me. It felt okay. See if there's anything I've got going on. I could close Chrome. I'll close Chrome. Then I won't be able to see the Twitch chat, but that's probably okay. For anyone wondering why Age of Empires replays work like this, I don't actually know, but it's just the brutal truth about casting from replays is that it's like directly tied to your process. So I'm going to close Twitch chat. Someone will have to message me on Skype if shit hits the fan and things go wrong. But we'll load into game number 2. That was game number 1. The standings currently are 1-0 in favor of Kynesie. Game number 2 coming up here in just a moment. Let's load it up and see what we got. And it looks like we're going to be seeing the Chinese from Diarouga spawning in the bottom right side of the map in the color blue. Going to be playing the Chinese civilization. And his opponent spawning in the upper left side of the map, playing the Japanese civilization. Look out! Is Kynesie. Kynesie going to be playing the Japanese. And Diarouga going to be playing the Chinese civilization. So we'll see what ends up shaking out as a result of this. A kind of classic matchup on Kamchatka, one of my favorite matchups. Anyone who's watched me play before knows I'm very fond of the Japanese civilization. And we'll see what ends up happening. Portuguese consulate coming up for Kynesie in fairly standard style. And so far in Kynesie's gameplay, we've seen his love of Age 4 and water play. Unfortunately, this map for him does not have water, but it does present itself with the opportunity, another matchup where he could potentially go into Age 4. We can almost guarantee that the Chinese player in this particular matchup has something fortress-based in mind. And there is the opportunity that perhaps Kynesie will want to maybe do some sort of semi-FI as a result. That's not my personal preference of the way to play it, but having seen him play quite a bit previously, I suspect that we could perhaps see some sort of FI-based play. Let's take a look at the decks quick, see if Diarouga has selected his deck. He has indeed selected his deck in what is looking like a fairly standard Age 4 China deck. A couple important things to note. He is kind of loaded to the gills in terms of Age 4 cards as well. We can see he's got Old Han Reforms. He's got the 21 Chukanu. He's got the 21 Quang Pikemen as well. And he's also got both of those very strong cavalry shipments in the 4th Age. Everything in the 3rd Age looks very, very standard for him. He has 10 Arquebusiers, 11 Changdao Swordsmen, 5 Meteor Hammers, Floor Iron Flails, and intervention, the very common shipments that we see the Chinese players sending in the second age. Northern Refugees coming down as his first card, and going to be completely standard in that regard. For Kynesie, on the other hand, has allied with the Portuguese, has built his first shrine, and I suspect that he'll be sending Heavenly Kami as his first card, as indeed he is. This is a game that is going to prove once again probably to be a fairly slow start to the game. I suspect that we'll see a fairly controlled style here out of both players. I don't think we'll see anything too aggressive, although it is worth noting that Diarouga does have some military shipments. In some FF decks out of Chinese players, you will see a complete lack of these kinds of shipments. Especially you won't see something like 9 Quang Pikeman or 7 Step Rider or something like that. You won't even see those shipments at all, and they'll just opt for more Age 4 shipments instead. It is worth noting that he does have standard army hit points, which does impact Chukunu hit points, meaning that if he does eventually get to the 4th age and go Old Han Reforms, he does have another upgrade card for his Chukunu available as well in his deck. So, kind of important things to note. We can see Diarouga doing an okay job here of providing a little bit of harass on the monks for the red Japanese player, which is slightly problematic for him. And we'll have to see whether or not that ends up impacting Kynesie rather in his gameplay here moving forward. Take a quick look at the number of goats that either side has gotten, because this is a fairly goat impactful matchup. 3 for Diarouga, currently fattening away on his livestock pen. On the other side, Kynesie looks like he's picked up 4 goats of his own. There's still a couple of goats available here for both players, but we'll see whether or not those get picked up. A nice little wood treasure going over here to Kynesie. Going to be able to pick that up and start building his shrines. As a result of some of the pressure that he did take in the early game from the monk and from the corresponding disciple, doesn't have his explorers in the greatest of positions to begin building shrines, but it looks like he's going to be working on getting those spread out the best he can. And we'll have to see whether or not that ends up causing him any grief as he moves on into the next stage here. Flip back on over to Diarouga, see what he's currently got going. Just standardish looking stuff, aging up with the Summer Palace, and chopping a little bit of wood. We'll see whether or not he puts down a trading post here in the central portion of the map. I'm suspecting that that's what he's going to do. As we can see, his monk jockeying for position, and there he goes, gets that trading post down. Still has 7 villagers gathering wood at this point in the game, and we'll see. I'm a bit curious to see what that's going to be, actually. As it currently stands, has not mined any coin, worth noting, and it's continuing to chop wood well past the required amount for the TP, so perhaps going to be chopping for a market as well, or maybe we're going to see something completely different. Maybe we're going to see something Age 2 based. Well, certainly with this deck, you can't be playing like full Age 2, but maybe we'll see some sort of strange semi-FF. We can see Old Han switch to it, the Summer Palace. 700 coins still coming out. I'm just curious what he's going to do with this wood. Maybe he's just going to chop for a second TP. Maybe he just wants 2 TPs before he scoots his way up. We can still see 9 villagers chopping wood, dropping down that second TP, and continuing. The wood chopping goes on. Looks like he's going to keep going. Okay, cancels the 700 coin and starts sending 7 Step Riders here instead. Going to go with a little bit more of a semi-FF based play. And I mean, that's smart. If you're going to go with all of these TPs and what's looking like it could turn into a market here as well now, you certainly aren't going to be able to immediately age up. So going to be opting for the 7 Step Riders. The market is down, and there comes the 700 coin after it, which is going to be used for him to age up. So going with a little bit more of a semi-FF here is Diarouga. This is something that I know like people like Bonang and the like of those guys do quite a bit, so we'll see how that ends up working out for him. 7 step riders hitting the ground now. Perhaps just to run around, try and catch these monks out a little bit, do a little bit of damage to them, and perhaps start sieging some of these shrines as well, should they find them exposed in the middle portions of the map. We flip on the fog for Diarouga. He's at the very least identified these shrines. He could assume that there's a shrine going down right here, just with the way that these hunts are standing. He scouted out a couple more of these shrines down here. These hunts are not shrined yet, but should he ever get a shrine down there, he could use those step riders to help liberate some of his next hunt here as well. Going to begin starting to poke down on those explorers. Does kill one of them. The other one back here building a trading post in another shrine as well. So let's take a look at where Kyenesie's currently at. He's at 150 shrine pops, so he's doing pretty good for himself. And it looks like he's going to be gearing up here as well. Has his standard Kynesie wall in place out front of his base. He's got a barracks coming up, and we'll see what his plan of action is going to be here moving forward. Currently his card order has been 600 wood 4ville. We'll see whether or not it's going to be 600 coin or 4ville next. Either are options, and either one will show us what he's got in store for us. 600 coin is going to be the choice, and looks like he's going to be finding his way up to the next stage. Also almost has the resources for imperial bureaucracy, still has 150 shrine pop, and I suspect we'll perhaps see these villagers pulled off wood at this point. He's got the wood that he really probably needs. Still going to keep chopping wood. But, yeah, it looks like he's going to be aging up, training the best heroes. Needs to deal with this little bit of a threat sooner rather than later. And so he did train 5 Ashigaros, which is going to help him with that slightly. And will help push back the pressure, combined with those 7 Portuguese bestieros, push back this little bit of a threat that's starting to siege down some of his shrines. Flipping back over to Diarouga, age 3, well in tow for him. Porcelain Tower has been dropped. 700 wood coming out. It's his 3rd shipment, following the 7 step riders and the 700 coin. And he's going to begin now his fairly standard age 3 progressive, building the War Academy, building the consulate, and continuing into the next stage to begin to deal with this threat that is starting to mount for Kynesie. We can see Kynesie still with a very strong economy, has that TP, has plenty of shrines, and I would assume is going to be pretty close to aging up himself. Actually, it looks like he's mismanaged his coin. Oh no, there's his coin. It's just sitting on the ground. Going to be able to pick that up and be able to scoot his way on up to the next stage here as well very soon. And we'll see what wonder he chooses. I would guess Golden Pavilion, because that's kind of just the Japanese standard. And indeed it is. It goes down. And very soon we're going to have ourselves in a situation where both players are aged up. And we'll see what action unfolds here in the 3rd age for us. If we take a look at the base of Diarouga, the Porcelain Tower almost finished. Over on Team Kyenesie's side, we can see at 130 shrine pops, so starting to lose shrines ever so slightly here, being forced to re-shrine in more defensive positions as Diarouga is slowly starting to clear out some of the portions of the map down here. And as a result, we'll see whether or not that ends up impacting the game whatsoever. Couple more Ashigaras being trained. Infrastructure is still not completed here for Kynesie, so we don't have a great read on what he's going to be doing moving forward. I suspect that he'll, at the very least, at some point need a stable. What do we got? Okay, another barracks coming down. And it looks like he's going to continue to try and deal with some of these little pokings and proddings that are going down over here. Does pick off 2 of the step riders. Going to pick off one of the 2 canoes as well and force back his opponent. Looks like he's going to be in a pretty good situation, though, here moving forward. Soon going to find himself in the next stage, and still does have 140 Shrine Pop, which is going to be, I think he's going to be perfectly fine with that. Is worth mentioning that Diarouga is in the next stage. Look out. Diarouga is semi-FIing. He is training only Old Han, has shipped 1,000 coin, and now here comes the Confucian Academy down. Diarouga is soon going to be into the industrial age, and we can see he's been training almost exclusively Old Han Army for the duration of this game, and by the looks of it, is gathering up food for Old Han reforms. If we can take a look at his villager breakdown here, is gathering an excessive amount of food, and if we take a look at his deck, he does have Old Han reforms in it, which for those of you who are unaware makes Kynesie and Quang Pikeman absolutely insane. If you take a look at the changes the card actually makes, it does increase their cost by 50%, but it also doubles their action damage and doubles their hit points as well. So for the price of 50% more cost, you get double the unit essentially. Which is a very efficient unit. And Kynesie are already a pretty good unit, just stat-wise to begin with, and Old Han makes them absolutely insane. So looks like that's what Diarouga is going to be opting for. We can see already beginning the Discipline Kynesie upgrade. Likely going to be upgrading his Pike similarly, and we'll see what Kynesie does as a response. Well, Kynesie's response is, anything you can do, I can do better. Here comes his Shogunate down, going to be semi-FIing himself, and we'll see whether or not he ends up getting out of this situation or not. Yumi archers being trained, of course, from the Golden Pavilion. Going to start to be pushing his way forward, and I think at this point Kynesie's got a pretty good read on what his opponent is doing. Has a pretty solid understanding that that he's going to be up against a semi-FI. If he takes a look at his opponent's deck, he knows likely what kind of composition he's going to be dealing with as well. I think he saw the Kynesie there, is going to be well aware of the fact that his opponent is going to be trying to push into him a little bit in that regard with that very strong upgrade. And we'll see how Kynesie ends up dealing with it. He's got his Disciplined Yumi Archer attack, or Disciplined Yumi Archers, currently being researched. The Daimyo coming out from the Shogunate, and here comes the 4 Flaming Arrow card. So it looks like he's going to try and cannon his way out of this. Is that a 2? That looks like a 2 Flying Crow shipment, probably, coming out of Diarouga. And I would assume at this point, no, he actually hasn't sent Old Han yet. There it is, sending the Old Han shipment, opting for that little bit of artillery first. And now he's got even more upgrades coming, getting the honored upgrades for his Kynesie. Worth noting that his army isn't actually all that large at this point. In fact, neither side's army is really all that large at this point in the game. Both have been investing quite heavily into their tech. And so he needs to be a little bit careful here. Needs to be careful. Looks like we're going to have Flying Crows and Flaming Arrows going at it. One of the crows does go down. One of the Flaming Arrows goes down as well. It looks like the Japanese unit's trying to get up here to deal with the Flying Crows. 2 of the Flying Crows are down for the cost of 2 of the Flaming Arrows, which is going to be the Japanese player in the favor there. Pushing back the Old Han upgraded Kynesie and Quang Pikeman, and now in the central portion of the map, a fairly tenuous situation here, honestly, between both sides. Very upgraded units for both sides. It's going to be in Kynesie's best interest to be getting some of his own honored upgrades. Let's take a look at whether or not he's getting any of those. Yes, it looks like the honored Yumi are being trained right now. And similarly, he's got the Shogunate, Japanese isolation, just a slew of more upgrades coming out here as well. So it looks like when in doubt, make Yumi. It's usually a fairly safe way to play it, and that's what our Japanese superhero here is going to be doing in this situation. Does have the Shogun come out, has the Daimyo out now as well, and wow, he's just got so many upgrades. At this point, neither side seems really willing to full-on engage. Neither side really wants to do any sort of dangerous play, and as a result, both sides just kind of playing a little bit of a game of chicken here. Two more flying crows, it looks like, have been sent for Diarouga, and we'll see whether or not he uses those in any sort of aggressive fashion here anytime soon. Kynesie still hanging back, continuing to get his upgrades, currently researching tempo reforms, also getting Bushido tactics from his consulate as well, which is going to give him the potential to pop out huge batches of units should he need to at any point in time. Using one Ashigaru to go out and scout a little bit, and at the same time, Diarouga is starting to free up some of the shrine potential here around the map as well. Kynesie up to 51 villagers. Let's take a look at where Diarouga is at. Still only 39, so not a ton of villagers for him. But at the same point, he does have a very strong army. He's got honored upgrades on both his Chukunu and his Quang Pikeman. And very soon he's going to have another Flying Crow, even more Chukunu, even more Quang Pikeman. And perhaps he's just going to be waiting for one more shipment, and maybe he'll ship something like 21 Chukunu or something like that. I think this would be a really strong timing if he shipped, 21 Chukunu, or maybe even two more flying crows. Yeah, two more crows going to be the call. And this is perhaps the moment that Diarouga has been waiting for. He's going to have 5 flying crows. Wow, he's going to have 5 flying crows. And if he waits for those and gets those into position to be able to deal with what I believe is currently a Yabusame-less army for his opponent, he's going to be oh wow. All right, there go those flying flaming arrow volleys. Absolutely decimated those 2 crows, and now all of a sudden Diarouga is on the retreat, taking a lot of damage on his way out. And perhaps a little bit of an overeager play there from him. Maybe would have been in his best interest to wait for the remaining flying crows. That crow getting picked off over the water by the flaming arrows. And these flaming arrows just absolutely demolishing the flying crows. Let's flip back over to Kynesie. Couple of decent volleys go down there. In the fight, the Shogun, the Daimyo as well, taking quite a bit of damage, perhaps going down. One of them goes down, the Daimyo does go down. Now these flying crows doing a decent job of poking back the remaining infantry here. The Shogun providing a lot of hit points. And at the same time, we do have some honored flaming arrows here as well. The Daimyo immediately getting retrained. The numbers of infantry, though, starting to dwindle here for the blue player. Needs to be a little bit careful. The flaming arrows, still 3 of them sitting in the background. And all this while, the Yumi archers are doing an absolutely insane job of just ripping through the front lines here. Decent flying crow volleys do go down. One of the crows is fairly low. We'll see whether or not Kynesie is able to pick that off. Take a look at the Yumi HP behind all of this. 100, oh, well, they were at 180. Now they're down to 150 now that the Shogun is dead. But still, the Yumi's doing pretty insane damage with pretty insane hit points. Has he sent Way of the Bow? He has not sent Way of the Bow yet either, so that will increase the stats of those Yumi archers even more. 1 flying crow and 1 flaming arrow piece here. On either side, the flying crow moving quite slowly, trying to get in position. And during all of this, the Yumi's doing a pretty good job of beating back the Chukunu. Whole bunch of stuff about here to pop for Kynesie, though. It does have 6 Yabusame about ready to pop. Has his Daimyo coming online here as well. And this is going to put an end to any sort of aggressive play with these cannons that Diarouga had hoped for. And at the same time, things actually starting to look pretty good here for Kynesie. Has his second batch of cherry orchards out. Again, still has 160 shrine population space. And behind all of this, I don't think Diarauga's, his economy is really not that good. It's at 41 villas. It hasn't improved, I don't think, since the last time we checked in on him, where it was, I think 39? So, struggling to keep his economy intact this game. It's against the Japanese player is very deadly. Here comes Way of the Bow, which is going to give them 2 ranged attack range and 15% hand attack. Way of the Bow, an absolutely insane card for Yuumi archers. Gives them all that extra HP and that extra range. And at that point, things are going to start to look very, very dire for Diarouga. Already down 50 points in score. And now with the Yabusame out on the field, it looks like this is going to perhaps just be one last kind of do-or-die push for him. Does have the Falconet that has come from the consulate, working his 2 flaming arrows in, but the Yuumi archers, with now the Way of the Bow upgrade just finishing on them, up to 165 hit points. Is the Shogun still around? I don't see him. The Daimyo sprinting to his death. The Awasame flanking from the right side, poking down on the flying crows. One of the crows has gone down. The Yumi's taking quite a decent bit of damage from the artillery, the Falconet and the flying crow doing decent damage. The other crow does go down. A big batch of Nagis comes out right on top of the fairly weak remaining army from Diarouga. And that's it for game number 2. Diarouga has resigned, and Kynesie takes game number 2 in a 20-minute but kind of one-sided game. I mean, there was not too much of a threat. It seemed like Kynesie was well equipped for the semi-FI and ended up winning. Yeah, look at Diarouga. His economy really just didn't ever improve. At 15 minutes, he was at 41 villagers. At 18 minutes, he was also at 41 villagers. And between the time when he aged up to age 4 at 11:30 and the end of the game, he only improved himself by 11 villagers, and that's over the course of 8 minutes. So Kynesie, certainly we're going to see that reflected in the all resources gathered graph. And as a result, game number 2 going over to Kynesie. In between games, we did have one donation from I Am Soldier, who says, "Good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing? Thanks for asking. I'm actually doing quite well. I suspect anyone who's interested in Age of Empires 3 is doing quite well. It's tournament day. It's the big event going to be happening here in a matter of hours, I would guess. Now, yeah, we're down to T-minus 90 minutes until the start of H2O versus Lord Raphael. We've still got perhaps 5 games to go here in the 3-4 matchup. Currently, Kynesie up 2-0 against Diarouga. And without another moment's delay, I think we're going to get going here on the next game. I'm going to close some of these extra processes just to make sure that I can keep these replays going as seamlessly as possible. All right, we'll launch into game number 3. Recorded game number 3. See what ends up happening. Kynesie versus Diarouga. Diarouga currently in a bit of a hole. H2O did assure me that I could finish this whole series in 3 hours. So we'll see what ends up happening as a result of that. See whether or not that ends up being true. Map number 3. is Mongolia, interestingly enough. Diarouga playing the Indian civilization on what I often consider to be one of the best maps for the Indian player. And his opponent Kynesie going to be playing the French civilization. French going to be played by Kynesie. And we'll see what ends up happening. This map, of course, highlighted by the free Mongol scout that you get. Also highlighted by the fact that there are, I believe, 18-ish yaks all around this map, which are going to provide a lot of XP for the Indian player, and just a nice reliable food source for the French player. So we'll see how that ends up shaking out, and whether or not it ends up being impactful. Diarouga looking like he's going to be playing aggressively. Currently has 10 villagers in queue, nobody chopping wood, and on a map like this with all these cows, I think we probably all know what that means. 10-10 Agrifort going to be coming down for him, and well, we'll see. We're going to probably see some aggressive play. The first two games that we've seen, we have seen a very controlled, laid-back style from both players. Neither opting to do really anything aggressive whatsoever until we get to the fourth age. I suspect we're going to see that trend end here and now, and I suspect we're going to be able to see somewhat of an aggressive play here out of Diarouga, as he currently has 10 population in queue. No villager moving forward just yet, but I suspect we will see that happening fairly soon. There's what Zuda likes to see, dead cows on the floor. In typical Zuda's fashion, just deleting those, because they can be so pesky to get back to your town center. A couple more yaks still available here. Let's take a quick look at the yak totals. Diarouga only has one yak. Looks like he's got two more coming to him by way of his town center, but only a total of 3 yaks. Kynesie, on the other hand, what has he got? He's only got 4 yaks. He's got another, looks like 7 coming in. So a total of 7 yaks for him. He also does have these 2 that are very close to his town center that he hasn't picked up just yet. But it's something that he'll be aware of. Certainly has built his market, gotten his hunting dogs upgrade at this point in the game. And we'll see whether or not he expects and how he deals with the 10-10 that Diarouga is soon going to be having up in his face. We can see the villager moving forward. The 800 resources required to age are in his back pocket. He'll be able to drop that wonder anytime now. As soon as he can find a suitable location to place. It looks like he's going to have to backtrack a little bit here and put it slightly behind this post. Well, he still hasn't dropped it. There it comes down. Dropping down the Agrifort, perhaps not as aggressively as he would have liked. Likely was hoping to get it down in this location somewhere, but unfortunately the Sufi Mosque and these trees getting in his way a little bit. Not able to put that down in just the right spot, I think, but either way, does have it down, is playing very aggressively, and we'll see what ends up happening as a result of that. Kynesie is going to have to deal with it, and we'll see how he opts to do so. Let's take a look at his deck. A pretty standard French deck, realistically. 4 CDB, 700 wood, 700 coin. The military shipments that are important to deal with it. Maybe worth noting, he does have long-ranged infantry HP, as well as both of the Cav upgrade cards as well in his deck. Maybe also important to note that on this map in particular, where there's not a ton of hunt, that he does not have 700 food, which is maybe somewhat impactful. And then if we take a look at his Age 3 deck, very standard cards there as well. 8 Skirm, 7 Skirm, 5 Goon, 2 Falconet, and 3 Cuirassiers, the meat of the French army in the Third Age. So TP going down for Kynesie. And Diarouga, let's take a look at his deck, see what if we got anything tricky going on. Looks pretty standard. Only notable callouts that I can see here are the fact that he does have 10 Tiger Claw in deck. And that's about the only thing really worth mentioning. It's very standard aggressive options in the third age as well. So pretty standard looking deck from him, and we'll see what ends up happening. Currently does have that house up and is repopulating himself with more villagers, and we'll see if he's able to get any sort of aggression down on the French player. It is worth mentioning that the French player in general has a little bit easier of a time in dealing with this kind of aggression, just due to the fact that if you take a look at their villagers, 40% range resistance, and we can already see the Great Coat upgrade has been researched by Kynesie as well, up to 243 hit points on those CDBs. So going to be well equipped in dealing with this early aggression that Diarouga is going to be trying to put down, and as a result of that, we'll see whether or not Diarouga is actually able to make this aggressive play work off, or whether or not the French is able to withstand any sort of the pressure that he puts down, and as a result, whether or not it ends up being a situation where the aggression just kind of peters out and isn't super effective. We can see 5 Sepoys have been shipped, 2 Sepoys from the age up, marching their way across the map, and we're going to have 5 Sepoys coming out here very soon as well from the Agra Fort. So that fairly popular aggressive 12 Sepoy push going to be coming here from Diarouga. And Kynesie currently has a stable drop down as his response to this. Perhaps not the response that you would expect from this, but the response nonetheless that we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing some sort of a cab opening here from Kynesie. We can also see Blunderbuss is being researched, is going to have the opportunity at least to fight with his villagers. Does have cavalry in queue here as well. And we'll see whether or not these villagers get pulled into conscription here pretty quick, because we are in a situation where there are 12 sepoy marching towards the base, and it's going to all of a sudden get to be kind of an awkward situation in a hurry, as Kynesie is only going to have 2 Hussar, perhaps a batch of Minutemen, and his villagers to hold this pressure. 2 Hussar are about to pop. Worth noting that Kynesie did cancel Hussar so that he would have the resources to call Minutemen. But at the same time, it looks like he's just going to be losing one of these houses. And that's not the end of the world. He does have 700 wood coming. So the one thing you have to realize if you're in Kynesie's shoes is that your opponent is sacrificing quite a bit of economy to be able to do this. And it looks like we're just going to see villagers versus a Sepoy here to start with. The CDB, one of them does drop down. It looks like a second one's certainly going to drop down here as well. Minutemen being called, and Kynesie going to be trying his best to try and get some sort of a raid in, but at the same time, in kind of an awkward situation in his base, not very well equipped to deal with this early aggression, and has his villagers kind of spread out here to the winds, and finds himself in a bit of an awkward situation. Diarouga following this up with 600 wood in trying to get some sense of economy back in his favor. A little bit of a raid coming here for Kynesie. Looks like he was able to pick off 1 villager. And at the same time, still trying to deal with the potential aggression here in his base. The 700 wood is being gathered up by many CDBs. Worth noting that he does have quite a little yak farm available to him back in his base as well. So that is going to help sustain him through this tricky portion of the game where he doesn't have a ton of stuff in his base to be able to deal with this pressure. The barracks is going to get up. He is going to be able to begin training an infantry unit of his choice. And also looks like he's going to begin sending his 8 crossbows as well. I believe a couple villagers, did sneak out here to the side as well. And so he's going to be able to, at the very least, use those to build some structure. It looks like he's going to build another training post. Could perhaps build a house so that he could start training some units here from the barracks as well. But at the same time, looks like the Sepoy are going to start sieging that barracks. And very soon there will be the 8 crossbows. Oh no, that's actually pretty bad for Kynesie, losing those cows, because he realistically needs those cows to be able to help him out of this kind of tricky situation. One more house does go down. The 8 crossbows just about to arrive. It looks like the Hussar still idling down there to the south side of the map. There comes the 8 crossbows. The villagers coming out to try and fight a little bit more as well. But looks like Diarouga going to back off and retreat back to his base. Look to improve his composition as we see a consulate coming down, and likely going to be seeing some sort of economic play. If we take a look at his cards, he sent the 5 sepoy to begin with, but following that up with the kind of standard 600 wood, 300 export, diplomatic intrigue type look. Going to be looking to get some economy back in his favor. Has his market reestablished, starting to get some of those market upgrades as well. So transitioning away from the pure aggressive style, I'm going to be working on towards getting that economy back in the store and trying to improve that aspect of his game as well. At the same time, Diarouga with his sepoy, well aware of the fact that his opponent has begun to build trading posts, and I think he knows where the explorer is dead. Yeah, the explorer's been dead here this entire time, so as a result of that, he knows there must be villagers up here as well, or I could safely assume that there's villagers up here as well. A little bit of a raid trying to come in here for Kynesie, but the sentry's able to push those back. And those 2 Hussar that were trained from the stable to begin with, trying to cause a little bit of pressure, a little bit of trouble. But it looks like they're not going to be overly successful, at least until the hit points from the explorer or from the sentries dwindle a little bit. One of the Hussar caught out a little bit of vill punching going on over here. Looks like we might get 1 villager. One villager for the price of that 1 Hussar. And it looks like the other Hussar going to sneak out to the other side. Behind this, worth mentioning that Kynesie is out of his base. Looks like he's going to be trying to age up actually behind this. 700 coin coming out for him. And in fact, he probably will be able to get aged up. Second barracks coming down, and losing his TPs, but at the same time the TPs are buying him quite a bit of time here to gather up the remaining resources required to age, and we can see he's going to be able to age after he gathers up this 700 coin. Going to have the 2 barracks, and still has the 1 Hussar and has a couple of crossbows here as well that he has trained that he's going to be able to use to get aged up as well. Unfortunately for him, Diarouga has found out about this northern location where he was training all these houses. Looks like the 2 CDBs still on the lam have managed to get out of there. The explorer as well has been rescued by the raiding Hussar, but unfortunately for Kynesie, going to be losing a bunch of these houses as well. Going to have to be retraining those, and we can see Gangsaw being researched, immediately chopping a bunch of wood, and still a tricky situation for Kynesie moving forward here. I'm not sure what his play to get out of this is. Behind this, Diarouga's economy ever so slightly improving with each passing moment. Distributivism has been sent, foreign logging being sent now as well as the standard Ottoman consulate and all the niceties that come with that as well. So Kynesie looking actually to be in kind of a rough situation here moving forward. He is now in the Fortress Age, and we'll have to see whether or not he can make any sort of power play off of that, because quite frankly, he's basically losing everything that he had. He's lost both of his trading posts. He's lost 3 houses. His opponent's gotten a free stable out of the deal. He does still have his important infrastructure back in his base. He has the 2 barracks. He has the stable as well. He's rebuilding some of the houses, and now that he is in the next stage, he is going to have the ability to send some very strong shipments. We can see 3 Corsairs currently being researched, but this may just be the timing that Diarouga looks for to just push into his opponent and try and win the game. 8 crossbows, not super effective, to be perfectly honest, in defending this kind of play. And there's a growing number of sepoy here. If we take a look at the scores, Diarouga in a pretty good commanding position score-wise. Kynesie trying to get out some dragoons, trying to get out those 3 Corsairs, but realistically, he needs like 15-ish skirms to be able to deal with this army that currently is here. And although he does have the double racks infrastructure, he does not have nearly the resources or economy to be able to produce enough skirmishers to deal with this. We'll see what happens. He does have still the villagers with all the upgrades that they do have, and we'll see whether or not he's forced to just end up fighting with those. We can see just how tanky those CDB are. Training some more crossbows. And here comes the Sours. This is looking like a very awkward situation. CDB's popping out. Looks like it's going to be all hands on deck here for the fight. The Cuirassiers, everything trying to get into position. The Dragoons trying to focus down the Sours the best that they can. The crossbows, 6 of them still alive. Actually, Kynesie doing a pretty good job in this fight. Another Dragoon popping out. The Villagers still doing a pretty good job of keeping everything alive. He's got more crossbows coming. I think he's actually going to be okay. It's really hard to tell, but with all the villagers fighting in his base, he might actually... No, certainly not. There's no way. It was wishful thinking, but Kynesie taking quite a bit of damage here, trying to do his best with some cute little micro, keeping as many of those villagers alive as possible. He does have the 8 skirmishers going to be coming out, which is going to help him ever so slightly, but at the same time down to 23 CDB, essentially stuck in his base, and was able to keep that villager alive. Could focus down some of the units to the best of his ability, perhaps in his best interest to get rid of that. Yeah, it just resigns. No chance at this point. In game number 3, it goes to Diarouga. In fairly convincing fashion. Diarouga making his aggressive play work out, and takes game number 3 and brings the entire series up to 2 games to 1. Kynesie 2, Diarouga 1. In this best of 7 series. Remember, it is just a best of 7, so one player only has to win 4 matches before they will be crowned the bronze champion. I'm quickly going to go refill my water cup before we start into game number 4. Give me just a moment, and then we'll hop into game number 4. For the people asking about the scoreboard, there's no UI enabled. I guess I could do... Let's see if I still have... I wonder which one of these... So there's scores. I don't think I have the right image to be able to do the scores. You just have to trust me when I say the score is 2 games to 1 in favor of Kynesie. If anyone else is in the chat and can help me out with people asking about scores, much appreciated. I'll open up the chat here briefly. So I can see what's going on. Yes, worth mentioning for people maybe just tuning in that I'm just doing these replays. These games were played earlier this week. These games are several days old at this point. The 3rd, 4th matchup between Diarouga and Kynesie. we're just getting them out of the way so that when the finals come, we know the current standings of the bracket, and that everyone can be well aware of the situation at hand. The final will be cast live by Interjection and myself, and that will be starting in roughly an hour and 20 minutes, about 80 minutes time from now. The live finals cast with Interjection and myself. But with that said, let's move into the next game. Game number 4 between Diarouga and Kynesie. Kynesie currently up 2-1. Diarouga needing to claw his way back here to get back into the match, but in this best of 7, still plenty of time for that to happen. And we'll open up game number 4. Here we go. Match number 4 between these two guys, and look what we have here. We have got ourselves some Indonesia spawning in the bottom left side of the map in the color yellow. Playing the British civilization on Indonesia is Kynesie, and his opponent spawning in the upper right side of the map of Indonesia, playing the Aztec civilization, is Diarouga. This map, one that I know a couple of things. One, that Kynesie likes because of the implications that it has with water. Obviously, quite similar to Borneo in terms of just shape of the landmass, availability of the water. And oops, didn't want to turn that on. And we'll see whether or not we've got any sort of water shenanigans coming out of Kynesie. I suspect we will. I suspect this is a map that he's going to be quite comfortable playing on. Similarly, on the other side of the map, we have Diarouga playing Aztecs, who, when this map was introduced into the tournament map pool last tournament, I know Samwise 12 also opted to play Aztec in basically every time he was forced to play on this map. And his thought was, if I just play aggressively and all-in rush my opponent, even if he tries to do water stuff, it maybe won't matter that much because I'll just play aggressively enough to force him into not doing water stuff. So we'll see if Diarouga follows that train of thought. Perhaps the best way to keep Kynesie off water is just to play as aggressively as possible and keep him from ever even considering going on the water. So we'll see whether or not that ends up happening. 3 villagers is the choice for Diarouga. Let's take a look at his deck. He does bravely have some water intentions embedded in his deck. We can see schooners. We can also see water dance as well. I love how all of his decks have been labeled after Kynesie, and you can tell that I think these decks were created with the sole purpose of beating Kynesie's water play. And it does also have offshore support, a very critical card in dealing with any sort of shenanigans that the British player might have. Let's flip on over to Kynesie, see if he's elected to take a deck, which I believe he... Oh man. Just take a look at that. It's almost frightening when you take a look at it, at his water deck. He's got advanced dock. How often do you see advanced docks like ever sent? Let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that Kynesie has advanced dock in his deck. It's a card that up until this point I didn't really even know what it did, but if you actually look at it and read what it does, it changes the damage by docks by 100%, super useful. Changes the heal rate for ships by 100%, which is super useful. Changes the train points by 33% for all ships. Changes the actions damage by 100% for docks, and the heal rate, again, it says it twice, but it's actually pretty good. When it comes right down to it. Also has fish market, schooners, whale oil, admiralty, offshore support, improved warships, rendering plant. He's just got, he's running the gambit of cards What's this one? I can't think of the name of this one. Something gunners. European gunners? Naval gunners? Naval gunners. All right, I got it. It's always a little bit of a test for me to look at these cards and see if I can name them all. I do pretty good with all of the standard ones. Like this one's refrigeration, right? Like those ones are. But when it gets into these ones that you don't see very often, sometimes like I have a little bit of difficulty remembering the names of all those. But I even got all of the niche water cards that Kynesie has in his deck. I was able to remember all of the names except for naval gunners. Took me two tries to get that one, but aside from that, Kynesie walls coming up. Diarouga, where do you have a forward war hunter? Are you gonna try and slug this one out on the sea? Kynesie certainly I think would appreciate that. Flipping over to Diarouga, looks like look at the explorer from Kynesie. It's already like over here. He's ready to go, ready to throw up a town center. And we can see the walling has begun, building some manor houses to give himself some vision. Even more walls coming up as well. It's just such a treat to watch Kynesie play on this. He's like just watching him work his magic on this map. I can't imagine what it would be like for me to have to play against him on this map. I think I would just instantly resign. I don't even think I would attempt to play it. Just because like his style in his mastery of these like water type situations is really, really good, and it's really frustrating to play against. I'm not even convinced that it's actually the best style, but it's just so frustrating to play against, and you have to play against it in such a controlled manner, and it's so difficult to play against that it takes a very top-notch player to beat this very water-heavy style. We can see Kynesie continuing with the walls. Diarouga has a forward war hunt. Looks like he's going to go with the Samwise principle, at least to some degree. 3 warrior priest is going to be coming out for him first, but then we'll probably see some aggressive intentions for him coming out after that. Kynesie ready and waiting on this side of the map with his explorer. And let's see what he's got in queue. He's got a couple longbows in queue, continuing to do some land booming as well, making some manor houses, finishing up his walls, putting down his outpost over here, because why not? Actually, if you think about it realistically, this is a pretty good place for this outpost. This is a fairly restricted path. This outpost is going to be able to get anything that just naturally paths through here. Similarly, if you put an outpost here, it kind of controls this choke point as well on the water. And well, it looks like Kynesie's got his full wall up. Don't see any glaring holes there. Going to be able to continue to boom. Land-wise here, just fine. He has a couple longbows out as well. And we'll see whether or not that's going to be his option. We do have a canoe out here for Diarouga. Well, how did he get that canoe out? Okay, he's got a dock over here. Interestingly enough, how did that dock get up over here? We can tell there's some Diarouga mind games going on here, because he's trying to preempt Kynesie, trying to get onto the islands before his opponent is able to. And second time we've seen Diarouga do this kind of cute little play with his catamaran, shifting it. Using it to shift stuff back and forth across the sea. A couple villagers going down here, able to kill 2 villagers, maybe he's even going to get a third. More coyote runners here, working their way across, and these villagers kind of caught out in a bad way. Not really anywhere for them to run. We've got coyote runners on both sides, and looks like a couple more villagers going to be going down there to the pretty aggressive raiding here from Diarouga. Has killed, I think, a total of 3 villagers. Going to be able to pick off some of these longbows as well. The pike's being split off from Kynesie, trying to get into a position to deal with all of these units. Going to lose another villager, and all of a sudden, Kynesie's taking quite a bit of damage here from Diarouga. Let's flip on over to Diarouga, see what his economy's like. Pretty good, up to 28 villagers, and I think importantly, starting to deny these locations that perhaps Kynesie wants to get to. Kynesi's general style, at least when I've seen him play Portuguese, he does stuff where he like ferries his town centers around into like locations like this and tries to establish outposts and stuff on all of these little towers, and then basically ignores the middle portion of the central island and just puts everything around the edges of the map. That style is not quite paying off for him at this point. You can see Diarouga has preemptively gotten out a dock on the southern isle. Quick fingers there. I didn't even know that those coyotes were in there. Obviously Kynesie did though. And the catamaran going to get sunk by the caravel. Fortunately for Diarouga, did not lose all of the coyote runners that were in it as well. A couple canoes coming around the edges here, looking to start perhaps putting up a fight against these caravels. We've got a lot going on here. We've got coyotes out in the middle portion of the map, doing a little bit of hunting here. And it looks like well, Diarouga, unfortunately, was trying to put up a dock over here, but going to run into both an outpost and the catamaran as well. Offshore support coming for Diarouga is his next card. Going to be trying to beef up his buildings a little bit and fighting against this. And at the same time, it does have pretty good land masses as well. He's got these 10 coyote runners. We can see he's got Mace Holton currently being researched as well. And Kynesie still doesn't have a ton going for him in his base. What has he got? He's got 35 villagers. He's got some pikes being trained, but losing some villagers here left and right. And well, at the same time, he somehow is managing to stay ahead in score, which is somewhat baffling to me. He's at 34 villagers. Diaraga's at 31 villagers. He still does, I guess, have this decent wall up all around his base, so he's in an okay position in that regard. The coyotes continuing to prowl the outer limits of Kynesie base, but not really able to get in and do anything for the current time. And we'll see whether or not that trend continues. Kynesie continuing to commit to this water-based plan. It looks like both sides are, for the most part, kind of ignoring what's happening on the land. Diarouga investing a little bit more into the land. Perhaps going to be trying to ferry his military units around here once again. Needs to be careful because there are two caravels over here keenly off to the side. Looks like he's going to load up his coyotes into that canoe. Oh no, he's got to be so careful. Oh no. Okay, got out again. But the caravels are here. Looks like the water game is going to begin. The canoes are a pretty good counter to the caravels. But at the same time, Kynesie does have 30 caravels and the infrastructure already established. Has not sent offshore support, has sent improved warships, so those caravels are not something that can be completely ignored. And doing a pretty good job of focusing back the coyotes here a little bit, doing some damage to them. And we do have to remember the coyotes are kind of trapped here in the base for the current time. But I don't think that's the biggest deal. There's not a ton of land army for Kynesie here. Focusing more just on the military, or the water fight, as it were. Minutemen being called, losing a few more villagers, trying to get into a position with these caravels where he can focus everything down. Oh, does get quite a few coyote kills there. And Kynesie in a situation where he's how did he even get these villagers over here and somehow got this outpost up on top of these docks of his opponent? I'm not even sure how that happened. Some of the military units stuck over here on the other side. Looks like they weren't able to quite get out. Uh-oh. Canoe needs to be careful. Unload your load. Stepping away. Kynesie doing a pretty good job of holding in his base, and 37 villagers. He's winning the war of attrition here on the land. These villagers, it's always just so strange watching Kynesie play on this map. If I were Diarouga, I would be very frustrated at this point. Let's flip back over to Diarouga, see what he's got. He's still creating canoes. He's at 34 villagers, trying to siege down this outpost to get back some sort of control over here on this little island. In the meantime, Kynesie, 4 caravels and that catamaran here, ready and willing and able to fight. And it looks like he's going to start the fight on the sea right now. Let's flip back over to Kynesie, see what upgrades he's sent. Has sent improved warships, hasn't sent anything else, just for the time being, for fighting on water. It looks like for the time being, both sides just going to back off. And we got ourselves a pretty big Age 2 water fight here brewing, I do believe. Looks like the canoes coming forward going to be able to try and poke down on the caravels. We do have the outpost here for Kynesie, still firing away. The catamaran in the mix as well. The caravels poking away at the canoes, and it looks like the canoes actually going to be fairly devastated here. The canoes going down in mass, and at this point, Kynesie taking the land fight here pretty hard, and or taking the water fight. Let's check back in on the land. Looks like he's stabilizing okay here on the land. Getting some more upgrades for what? That's it. I guess Kynesie wins. I wasn't actually truthfully even looking at the progress bar, and I'm a little confused. I mean, Kynesie's just won water. 41 vills to 36. Okay. I'm gonna quick ask ask H2O, see if he's here, because I believe he's actually watched these games. Who won the Indonesia game? Because I'm not actually sure. I mean, if you take a look at the scores, Kynesie's up 134 to 98 in terms of score, which is in his favor. He's won water pretty hard. There are still 6 canoes there. At the same time, I mean, it's not like he's in a runaway lead at this point in the game. Okay. Got confirmation that the Indonesia game was won by Kynesie. So he takes game number 4 in I guess what was kind of an unexpected fashion for me. I mean, I guess perhaps Diarouga pulling a page out of Zuda's book where he just got frustrated in playing with this. I can certainly understand that. Kynesie knows his water, and this is not a map that I would want to face him on as well. So just got the confirmation though. Game number 4 did go over to Kynesie, and as a result, he's now currently up 3 games to 1. All right. Game number 5 then, between Kynesie and Diarouga. Game number 5, match point perhaps for Kynesie. Kynesie up currently 3 games to 1. Should he win this game, he will take 3rd place in this winter championship. So, without further ado, let's hop into game number 5. Game number 5, going to be on Arizona or Painted Desert? Going to be on Painted Desert. Of course, because we are back to game number 5, I believe all civilizations are unlocked. And oh, what a game to have! What a day to be living in. Japan mirror for game number 5. It doesn't get any better than that, if you ask me. And spawning in the bottom left side of the map in the color blue, Diarouga. In the upper right hand side of the map, in the color red, is none other than Kynesie, a non-TP map, and as a result, perhaps that playing into the players' civ choice here. Going to be seeing a Japan mirror, both sides dropping down consulates, I would assume. Both sides also chopping the corresponding wood so they can get their Portuguese consulates up. And it is good old-fashioned painted desert, one of the standard robot maps, which is actually, I think, one of the more balanced robot maps when it comes right down to it. Kynesie pounding up his consulate, Diarouga pounding up his consulate as well, both sides looking to have the required 106 wood to build that shrine when they do get aged up. And we'll see what ends up happening after that fact. Take a look at decks here briefly. The deck for Diarouga looking fairly standard. Nothing too crazy there. 600 wood, 600 coin, 4 vills. Corresponding Ashi and Yumi upgrades, and the Orchard Rickshaws, the important cards to note. Also does have pretty good Age 3 and Age 4 cards as well. Take a look at his Age 3. The important upgrades, Nagi HP, Cav HP, that is, and Way of the Bow, Close Combat also, both in his deck. Let's flip over to Kynesie and see what he's got as he builds his shrine here in the 12 o'clock position of the map. And he's got a fairly similar deck, running the fairly standard set of cards in Age 2. No diplomatic intrigue for either player, maybe the one key caveat worth noting. Also has no military unit shipments in the Third Age. Just upgrades for him, as well as those 2 flaming arrows. Has a couple military shipments in the Fourth Age, and we'll see whether or not we see semi-FIs out of either player. Probably semi-FFs for sure. Something along the lines of 600 wood, 4 vil, 600 coin, or 600 wood, 4 vil, 4 vil, 600 coin. We'll have to see. Was a coin crate start, so a little bit slower of a start for both players, but we'll see what ends up happening. Both sides do have down their starting shrine, and as a result, that should be perfectly fine. Looks like Diarouga currently has a 13 vil age up in mind. Kynesie similarly also has a 13 vil age up currently in line for him. And then we'll progress into the next stage, and we'll see how many Ashigaru get trained and how much contention we have out in the middle portion of the map. Worth noting that Kynesie did pick up this treasure with all of these scouts. If you take a look at the treasures just in general, he's picked up 3 native scout treasures. And so he's actually got, if we look at the vision, he's actually got insane vision at this point in the game. He's got 3 native scouts running around the map, as well as his explorers running around the map, and those will be quite useful for him. Of course, it is painted desert. There are cows on the map worth mentioning. Diarouga does currently have 4 cows to his name, whereas it looks like Kynesie has just the 1, perhaps. Escorting 2 more across the map. And the final cow, the 8th cow on painted desert, does reside up here in the 11 o'clock position. Teshuga Shrine going down for both players. Kynesie opting to build with 1. Diarouga doing the Zuda special, 0 vils on Wonder, and going to begin chopping his wood. And we'll see him, both players progressing to the next stage, and see how things end up shaking out there. The jockeying for position of explorers does begin now. Let's take a look at the explorer position. Actually, not a big fan of the positioning of Diarouga's scouts. I've said it before, I've preached it before. Start yourself on your opponent's side of the map and work back towards yours. Of course, Diarouga did have to contend with these. Yeah, this is perfect, right? Look at Kynesie's positioning here. He's in absolutely great positioning with his scouts. 1 on each side, going to be able to work his way back. Diarouga did have the unfortunateness of running into his opponent's native scouts. If we take a look at these native scout treasures that Kynesie does have running around the map, after providing a little bit of harass here to the scouts of Diarouga, and as a result, Kynesie did get into an arguably much better position with his scouts at the start of the game, and we'll see whether or not that plays any big impact here as the game continues to progress into the next stage, especially when it comes to positioning of shrines. Kynesie working his way back on the left side here. Diarouga trying to shrine up some of the similar hunts. And this could become problematic for Diarouga if this continues in this trend. Not having your monks in the correct positions in these Japan mirrors results in a bunch of things happening. One, it results in you not getting the ability to contest your opponent's back hunts. These hunts will basically be free for Kynesie to hunt or to shrine even after his initial shrines start going down. And we can see those native scouts just continuing to provide harass. And as a result, Diarouga actually floating wood, having a difficult time getting his scouts out into any position whatsoever. And unfortunately, when he does come out here to lay down the shrines, Kynesie already in place, in position to get down the shrines of his own. We can just see, look at these native scouts and how annoying they're being. Diarouga trying to get a little bit deeper into position, but unfortunately for him, Kynesie getting the better positioning on him, and as a result, kind of running into a tricky situation. Diarouga sending 4 villagers as his first card in the next stage. Kynesie sending 600 coin, or 600 wood rather. And we'll see what, I'm curious to see what Diarouga is going to make of this little bit of a 4 vil start. Maybe he'll do something like 4 vil 600 coin and just try and age up. Especially if you know you've kind of lost the positionality war. Maybe he's going to value that tech play that much more as a result of being in the situation where he knows his opponent's in a better position with the shrines. Look at Kynesie shrines. I mean, he's just all over here. He's got basically Diarouga has no shrine population here, which is going to be pretty rough for him. Kynesie in a really good position with his shrines here. 4 vil going to be the call for Diarouga. Continuing to chop wood the old-fashioned way, while Kynesie doing the more standard 600 wood, building the barracks on the 600 wood. And we'll see whether or not standard play, as strange as it is to say Kynesie doing what I would consider standard play, and we'll see whether or not that impacts the game whatsoever. Shrine population is currently 130 for Kynesie to 110 for Diarouga. I think that's to be expected, especially with the monk positioning and the card order choice at this point. 600 wood going to help fill out your shrine population a little bit more as a result of that. We can see the shrines going down hot and heavy here for Kynesie. If you take a look at his vision, got a pretty good spread here, especially on the left side of the map. His very good vision of all of these shrines. Diarouga, if we flip over to him, does not have nearly the penetration, just this one shrine out across the halfway point, and aside from that, really doesn't have a ton of shrine coverage. Fortunately, Painted Desert does have pretty good hunts, so he is able to build quite a few of his shrines here back at home, and we'll see what ends up happening, see what his next card is, and whether or not it's going to be something like 600 coin, or maybe Ashy Attack. Maybe he's going to be going with something completely different. But the 2 Raxes are up for Kynesie. Ashigaro in train. Similarly for Diarouga, has a single Rax up. Has 4 Ashigaro in training as well. Also making those Bestieros for the Portuguese consulate. He sent his 4 villagers twice. And I guess I expect him to send 600 coin here. I don't see really any other progression forward for him, unless he's got some sort of cute timing worked out where he's going to do something aggressive. Yeah, Ashy Attack coming out as his next card. There comes down Imperial Bureaucracy. The longer this game goes, certainly having the villagers out earlier is going to help you in the fact that you're not going to have to send 600 wood, which although it's a really insane card and helps you in the short term greatly, the longer the game goes, the longer those villagers are out gathering resources, especially the more market upgrades you get, the less impactful that 600 wood becomes. But at the same time, it really does help you establish your infrastructure. And so we'll see whether or not that ends up being a big deal. If you take a look at the road that these 5 Ashes have to hoe, it's going to be quite the uphill battle. Taking a look at shrine population, 160 for Diarouga, Kynesie up to 200 now. In a fairly commanding position. Both sides trying to apply a little bit of harass to the shrines, but truth be told, Kynesie with the bigger mass at this point going to be slightly more successful. A little bit of confrontation going down here in the middle portion of the map. The Port Bestieros getting off a little bit of a volley for each side, neither successfully taking down any military units, but Kynesi's mass continues to grow and is able to get down that shrine in the middle portion of the map. Still floating up above 200 shrine population is Kynesie, 170 for Diarouga, so slowly catching back up. Building his second barracks now. And if we flip back over to Kynesie vision, we can see 600 coin coming next card for him, which signals to me that he's going to be aging up. And I wonder whether or not Diarouga is going to be aging up as well. It looks like the answer to that question, at least immediately, is no. He doesn't have the resources. 600 coin is sending, but he's ending his relations with his Portuguese consulate. Perhaps wants to slow that down a little bit if he does intend to age, but at the same time, probably has a pretty good idea of what Kynesie has in mind here in terms of aging, and likely wants to match him in tech in that regard. So is going to be aging. Kynesie getting back into position, dropping down the wonder. Golden Pavilion going down with 5 villagers, fairly standard there. And we'll flip back on over to Diarouga. His 600 coin is going to be here fairly soon. We'll see whether or not he cancels his end relations so that he can age up. We have to suspect at this point that he's going to be wanting to age with these resources. And it looks like he's going to allow the Portuguese consulate to continue on with its cancellation. Going to end up costing him, 120 food, which isn't the end of the world, but every little bit counts in a high-level mirror. And Kynesie continuing to sneak around the map. Did get his age up down slightly quicker, got his coin out slightly earlier, and as a result, going to be up slightly earlier. Diarouga flipping on over to the Japanese isolation, going to be able to soon have that extra 5% attack. And a little bit of posturing here going on in the middle of the map. Both sides trying to get in a position where they can deal with the opponents. If you take a look at shrine population, 160 for Diarouga, still up over 200. So Kynesie still ahead in that regard. 37 villagers to 37 villagers, both sides equal villager counts. So I think at this point, Kynesie in slight advantage, aging up slightly quicker, had better shrine distribution and better shrine population for the majority of the game. And a lot of that came down to the early aggression that he was able to leverage out of those native scouts. And as a result of that, able to get his monks in better positions and finds himself in the situation that we currently have. Both players, Diarouga at least about halfway aged up, Kynesie just aging up now, and we'll see what his card is going to be. 7 villagers is going to be the choice. We can see the disciplined upgrade immediately coming for him. And as a result, going to be able to push this issue should he want to. That's the biggest thing that he's got to know right now, is that when that upgrade comes, he's going to have a little bit of a window. Paper cartridge beginning to be researched here as well. When that upgrade comes, I think he wants to be in a position where he can push the issue. He's going to have an opportunity where he's going to have a pretty big window where he knows that he's aged up with an upgrade that his opponent is not. And I think it would be in his best interest to be seeking out a fight right now. Especially when he sees that his opponent ages up, he'll know that his window is starting to degrade here slightly, but at the same time, doesn't want to get caught out. Knows his opponent is quickly behind him in terms of tech. Doesn't want to get caught out, in a position where maybe he's fighting against Yumis or something like that as well. So here come the armies up to a head. Going to be fighting with each other. A little bit of back and forth action. Let's take a look at Diarouga. He does have that ever important disciplined Ashgara upgrade coming for him out here fairly soon. Kynesie dropping down another town center as well. And it looks like both sides are going to continue to play this more macro-oriented game. 7 villagers coming out, 2 orchard rickshaws for Diarouga. Kynesie similarly has not sent his orchards, but I would assume he's going to very soon be at in a position where he's going to need to send them. Yes, he is definitely going to need to send them very soon. And still no flaming arrows for either side just yet. Kynesie does have up that next town center, and there come the flaming arrows. Japanese isolation also being researched for him. Going to try to continue to poke back here, try and get in a position where he can keep as many of his shrines alive as possible. Let's take a look at the shrine populations very quickly. 180 for Kynesie versus 200 now for Diarouga. So Diarouga catching up nicely in that regard. But at the same time, we're going to have a little bit of a power discrepancy here very soon. Diarouga did opt to send his 2 cherry orchards to make sure that he always had somewhere that he was going to be able to gather food from, whereas Kynesie has opted to put his shrines on food a little bit more heavily and is sending a more impactful shipment here. 2 flaming arrows is his next card, so we'll see whether or not that ends up playing out here. And here they are. The flaming arrows have hit the ground. Diarouga needs to be very, very careful that he doesn't overstay his welcome or fight into this position too heavily. Monk finishes building the shrine and immediately gets killed. 2 flaming arrows sneaking in from the back. Kynesie getting in a decent position with his army, trying to hold back and wait for the whole engage until the flaming arrows get here. Here they have a ride. The volleys are starting, and it looks like this is going to be the fight that Kynesie wants. We can see big batches of reinforcements coming here. 18 Ashgaras and 18 Ashgaras total going to be joining into the fight. The 2 flaming arrows doing a decent job of getting some decent trades here and pushing Diarouga all the way back, going to force him back into his side of the map. And also worth mentioning, behind all of this, Kynesie does have up a second town center, is training villagers 2 at a time, and here do come his cherry orchards now. Going to need those to be able to continue to train units. And still has those 2 flaming arrows that he's going to be able to leverage moving forward at this point. 2 flaming arrows coming out for Diarouga as his next card as well. So the caveat between the 2 builds at this point has... or the difference, I guess, in technology has been will be resolved when these 2 flaming arrows come. Kynesie opting to send his flaming arrows slightly earlier and put his shrines on food, and as a result, not needing quite as much quite as much food from the cherry orchards, and being able to sneak those 2 flaming arrows in, which have provided him with quite a bit of value here. If we take a look at the populations, 101 for Diarouga, Kynesie up to 121-ish, but he's also training quite a few flaming arrows here as well. So we'll very soon have more flaming arrows on the ground as well, and we'll see how that impacts him moving forward. There's a little bit of an ashy raid. Does kill off a couple of villagers, is also spotting out the fact that Diarouga has sent some flaming arrows. Going to be able to pick off another villager there, and at the same time forcing the issue in the middle of the map, reclaiming some of the shrine territory that he currently was losing out on a little bit, and trying to reclaim some of that land. Behind this, let's take a look at villager populations. 57 for Kynesie, 52 for Diarouga. So after that little bit of a raid, combined with the fact that the town center has been up and working here for quite some time for Kynesie, leading to a nice little advantage for him in that regard. 2 flaming arrows stepping forward here. Do get off a decent volley against the infantry. Kynesie, remember, does have more flaming arrows coming in, going to have a total of 5 flaming arrows. And here comes the fight. Flaming arrows exchanging volleys. Looks like, yep, 2 flaming arrows going to be going down, 1 for each side. There goes the second one for Diarouga, and it looks like Kynesie going to be pushing his way forward here. Close combat has just finished for Diarouga. Kynesie sending close combat for himself, but maybe more importantly, still does have these remaining 4 flaming arrows in this mix as well. His infantry numbers are running fairly thin, and because of the upgrades currently on the Ashigara, Diarouga is able just to run up and kind of focus them down, pushing back the army of Kynesie here. Decent job of doing that, but he, at the same time, still taking a lot of damage from these flaming arrows, taking a lot of volleys. The reinforcing unit's going to be here fairly soon for Kynesie. I can't stress how important it is behind this. Kynesie has had this entire time been sending or training villagers out of 2 town centers. Has a little bit more map control and is out on these various different coin mines. Soon Diarouga are going to be running out of resources, and at that point looks like we're going to be starting to fight over some of these central coin mines. 2 flaming arrows do hit the floor once again. A couple clubs coming in from the side as well, and this big prolonged fight that we've been seeing continuing forward here. The clubmen trying to sneak in the back. If you take a look at Kynesie, does have 1,000 coin coming as his next resource crates, and I'm not sure whether or not that's to age. Certainly probably not at this point. Diarouga with too much of a threat up in his base. And Diarauga's kind of evened up the score. More Ashigaras coming out for Kynesie. Looks like we're going to have a little bit more of a fight. Taking a look at the shrine populations very quickly, 180 for Kynesie versus 190 for Diarouga, so very, very close in that regard. Shipment progression-wise, both Ashigaras similarly upgraded. And it looks like Diarouga going to continue to push back his opponent at this point and continue to gain some sort of advantage there. Villager check real quick, 58 for Diarouga, 67 for Kynesie. So Kynesie starting to really pull ahead in terms of just raw economic potential. We can also see Kynesie starting to mix in some Yumi archers here as well, perhaps realizing that he's starting to lose in just terms of sheer mass and wanting to try and get a little bit harder of a counter to the Ashigaras out on the field. As we can see, he's starting to continue to train Yumis, training some more flaming arrows as well, and as a result of that, looks like he's going to have big unit pops out of his barracks. Lots of reinforcements coming. 3 Yumis coming out. A big batch of Ashigara about to pop here as well. Does have Minutemen available. Might be in his best interest to call those. Yumi's doing a good job of focusing on the Ashies. Big pop of Ashies coming in from the right side. Going to be able to focus down these units. And at the same time, a little bit of a raid going on here for both sides. We can see Ashies running around the map trying to get into position. And Diarouga starting to quickly run out of coin mines here. Kynesie has already built 1 rice paddy. Did send, I believe, one of the rice paddy upgrades, or was that Diarouga? No, neither one of them have. But 2 more flaming arrows coming forward for Kynesie. Diarouga selling a 7 villager shipment once again. Kynesie quickly approaching the max count for villagers here. Also sending Ashigara musket attack finally. Does still have quite a few Yumis here, and combined with the 2 flaming arrows, looks like he's going to be able to clean up this little bit of a mass that Diarouga was starting to gain. And the score is starting to actually get in favor of Kynesie quite a bit here, and as a result, we'll see whether or not he's able to push this forward. More flaming arrows in queue, training a couple of shinobi as well as the Minutemen still available to him. The villagers in fairly tenuous positions here. At this point, Kynesie, I believe, is completely off of coin mines. I don't think... Okay, he's still got a little bit of coin left on this one right side one. This one has just dried up. So it looks like not going to be able to continue to gather any coin there. Has built 1 rice paddy and gotten a couple upgrades from it. And that's perhaps also why he's starting to transition into Yumis. There's just not as much coin available on the map for him to use at this point. And as a result, starting to switch into something that doesn't quite require as much coin just because there's not as much available on the map. A few more flaming arrows does pop out. It does have a total of 4 flaming arrows currently available to himself. And these Ashigara Musketeers for Diarouga being pushed back ever so slightly, at least being dissuaded from being in any sort of aggressive location. We always make this point, and it's worth mentioning here once again, that the discrepancy in speed and mobility of these armies at this point is quite high as a result of Diarouga opting to not go with flaming arrows and Kynesie opting to go the flaming arrow route. And as a result, this army for Diarouga, quite mobile, able to run around the map and cause quite a bit of havoc. But unfortunately for him, going to be kind of trapped here, a little bit surrounded, and in a position where he's a little bit caught out. Decent volleys going down from the flaming arrows, getting pretty good shots here. The villagers being sent away. 2 of them do drop down, and it looks like Diarouga has had enough. It looks like he's just going to try and raid his way out here, get in a position where he can try and start sieging down some of these wonders. We can see the Diarouga Shrine starting to be under some sort of contest here. Ooh, the cherry orchards. Be careful with the cherry orchards. The Ashigaros do pick off one of them, but for the cost of getting hit in the face by quite a few of these Yumis. A couple Nagis working their way in the backside. Kynesie also doing a pretty good job of corralling this other raid that was threatening the backside of his base. And is currently working up to 74 villagers once again. Has his last villager in queue as he cleans up this raid. Looking to be in a pretty good position. Do a quick shrine check to make sure we're aware of the economic potentials. We have 190 for Kynesie, Diarouga similarly at 190 as well. So both sides in even vill counts. Both sides in even shrine counts. So take a look at the vill counts: 69 and 75. So Diarouga maxed out in a pretty good position. But Kynesie currently has a slightly better standing army, I would wager, with these couple flaming arrows. I think at this point the transition to Yumis has been successful, and Diarouga continuing just to mass Ashigara Musketeers. Flip back over to Diarouga, maybe trying to save to age here at this point. No, it looks like he's just queuing up a whole bunch of stuff here, so looks like we're going to see that go down. And more Yumis going to be continuing to be sent. Let's take a look at the card order. Has not sent either of the Yumi upgrades at this point, so not going to have that available to him, but at the same time, maybe doesn't even need it as long as he's got enough stuff here out front of these flaming arrows just to buy him some time. He'll be okay. Transition to disciplined Nagis has begun for Diarouga, knowing he's going to need something to deal with all of this Yumi Archer flaming arrow mass. And Way of the Bow now has begun by Kynesie, and this is a fairly formidable push in from Kynesie. This is a pretty scary push. If you take a look at his army, 36 Yumis with Way of the Bow soon to complete, and 4 flaming arrows versus realistically what's not nearly enough anti-infantry from Diarouga, trying to get into a flank position where he can catch the flaming arrows, but Kynesie shifting things around. Looks like he's going to be okay. A nice volley off on the clubs. The Yumis, a couple of them caught out of position in the back, but the Ashis coming in from a flank on the side should be able to help solidify that position. The flaming arrows still holding strong, 3 of them in the central portion. Decent control, getting good volleys off here. Units coming in from either side, doing a pretty good job is Diarouga of getting a good surround here, but at the same time, the Yumi Archers, the reinforcing Ashis, doing a very good job of forcing down on this army. And it looks like Kynesie is actually going to be able to clean this up and still have 3 flaming arrows and have big reinforcing batches of military units coming in behind this, and all of a sudden Diarouga down 100 points in score. I think we've done it. Kynesie takes game number 5 and pulls down Diarouga 4 games to 1 to take 3rd place in the Winter Championship. I believe that is correct. I'm going to just quickly confirm with Ryan, who's the other person who knows the official score, just to make sure that that's correct. It is correct. Kynesie has won 4 games to 1. Congrats to him. An interesting play style. I love to watch Kynesie games. I love to watch him play. He's just such an interesting player to watch, and I'm really happy for him. Having a really good showing here in the Winter Championship, getting all the way to the semifinals, and then beating Diarouga in the 3rd-4th matchup. So he definitely had a long, entertaining series against Lord Raphael, which was a joy to watch as well. I think that Baja game against Lord Raphael will go down as one of the best games in the tournament. The Spainport game we saw as well was a quite action-packed one that we watched just a couple hours ago, and pulling off a pretty good win here against a very quality opponent. Diarouga getting 4th place in the tournament, no shame in that. Certainly coming top 4 is a feat in itself. So 2 very well-matched players. Kynesie getting the better of Diarouga today and taking the 3-4 bronze match 4 games to 1.